welcome, ladies and gentlemen, uh, to a very special presentation. This, of course, is your host of the Peace Dealer. Thank you guys for your patience. Shout out to everybody in the live chat chilling right now. We have a very amazing talk titled, of course, Life Within Breath. Um, I'm not sure if some of you remember I had Ryan as a guest here before, and I know we were talking about like Saturn and the relationship between life and death, and he had a really amazing story to share. Well, Ryan has brought a really purely amazing friend that I really wish to introduce all of you to, and we're definitely going to get into some really interesting concepts. Of course, we're gonna tie in astrology with shamanism, but especially given into this full moon that we're harvesting smash the like button or die. A lot of the focus of this will be towards accessing your best self. In fact, as you watch this, it will be really awesome if you set the intention, whether actively or even just it passively, to what is your best self. If you could access your best self, what would that look like? We'll, talk about, healing mental, physical, emotional problems. And what I'm really interested to kind of touch on too is this element of biohacking, which I feel like is a really awesome Uranus and Taurus theme. And, I hope you enjoy this talk. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Rio and Ryan. How are y'all doing?
Hey, what's going on? May I just start by saying, Im Night Shyamalan.
Let's get it. Let's get it.
Magic words, baby.
Yo, you just lit up my inner world right now. There we go.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what's up. For the people watching, where are you based at?
I'm in Mexico. I'm in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Okay. That's what's up.
But I mean, I get around. I have I travel by motorcycle, and I sort of go where I'm needed. But I do have like a little healing center here in Mexico, and it's growing very rapidly. And
living the dream. Okay.
I guess so.
There
is no dream though. It all just is.
It all just is. Ooh, he already preaching. Let's get it. I had chills when you spoke of the healing center, because for me, I feel like that's the next step. As far as like, I'm sure you didn't have to figure out how to do that, but now you're here right now. So I like to think of what I do as heavily conceptual and more in my mind, but I really love that you're on the field, actually, with people, healing them. And I'm very, very excited to kind of ask you and then go into what that's like, especially in Mexico. That already sounds like quite the mission right there.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into it.
And personally, I have a lot of questions about Mexico in general. I know I was talking to Ryan before, and I was asking him about his experience there. And he gave me the most Sagittarius response ever. He was like, "Oh yeah, no, it's amazing. Like, I really love it here. I almost died a couple times, but I mean, it's not that bad." I was like, nice. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a magical place.
I feel it. Yeah, I can totally believe it.
Just because of the way that the culture is set up, it's a lot more indigenous. Like, a lot of people just have indigenous roots, and they're not too far removed from that. And then there's also very just like religious in the sort of Mexican Catholicism angle. So it's like they celebrate death. They celebrate Day of the Dead. They celebrate their ancestors. They talk with their ancestors like it's just you and I having a conversation.
Nice.
And it's just typical, And so a little bit more magical, I guess. Yeah.
I will say, okay, the only time that I've ever been to Mexico was when I was living in El Paso. And when I had moved there was after it was safe to go there. Apparently people were just going there back and forth, and it was a good time. But like, I went to Juarez, and it was magical as fuck. I went to this bar with my friends, and somebody randomly came in and was serving Churches or Popeye's chicken, and I had never, bought fried chicken at the bar and just chilled. It was amazing.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in New Jersey on the
Okay.
East Coast. Yeah, I moved a little bit back and forth, but I think around like 18, after freshman year in college, which I did in Maryland, I moved to El Paso, Texas, and I lived there since like 2009 to 2010.
Nice. You and Khaled, El Paso.
Yeah, yeah, from desert to desert. Wait, what was that you just said?
Wait, I hope I'm not losing internet signal, but I said you and Khaled.
Oh, okay, okay. I heard you. I heard you.
He's like a singer, and he has roots in El
Oh,
Paso.
Khalil,
which is like-
Khalil. Okay, I thought you
Yeah,
said
yeah.
Khaled at first, like DJ Khaled. Yeah, Khalil. He blew up huge, which is awesome. Shout out to Khalid. Not
Huge.
Khalid. Yeah, he's been
Exactly.
Yeah, I also didn't know. I think it was his birthday today too.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Kevin. I'm so mad. I forgot. I saw him live here in Vegas, but he's a comedian. He's also from El Paso. I couldn't believe it. But it was pretty dope. But
it's a weird little vortex there for sure. Good scenes.
And another thing that I was very curious about, the first thing I had actually asked him, because you hear these stories and people in the news. Personally, I'm from Nigeria, where people be getting kidnapped, there's extortions and all that, of course, in any third world country, right? Still a very magical place though, right? So I remember feeling that same feeling kind of in Mexico, where it's a lot more indigenous, like you said. What's your firsthand experience with like the cartels? Is it a real presence out there, or is it not that big a deal?
So it's part and parcel with the culture, I would say. But the cartels from like 20 years ago that everybody's afraid of, and oh man, it's like shoot 'em up and bling bling and big cars and all this guns and all that sort of stuff. That's not how the cartels roll these days.
Okay.
The cartels are all about infrastructure. They're all about development. They're all about getting like proper water supplies into these towns so that they can bring in external dollars. I mean, it's basically like, you got to think, like in the 40s and 50s and 60s, the mob kind of running like New York, New Jersey, Little Italy, all that sort of stuff. And then they went into Vegas, and then they sort of like made it more of like a business. And it's like, are they still running stuff? Like, we don't know, but it's like they're building hotels and they're keeping it safe, right? And it's just like, it's a different kind of dynamic.
They basically run like a government. That's wild.
And they kind of protect you from the government in a lot of ways, because the cops are corrupt and they try to give you shakedowns, and the cartels don't want cops giving tourists shakedowns. So it's like,
when I was at Juarez, a cop tried to extort us on the way back, and I was like, this feels just like Nigeria. Oh my gosh,
it's true. And you know what, man? I can't even blame the cops though, because like they don't get paid that much because they're government employees, and it's sort of part and parcel with like their payment structure is like they got to shake tourists down. They can do it, but at the same time, like right now in Vallarta, at least, the chief is like, we're not putting up with that shit, and the cartels are like, we don't want that shit either. So yeah, man, like if you're in the cartel and you're wearing like a chain, or like you're getting crazy tattoos, like you're going to get reprimanded. Like that's not what it's about now. It's interesting.
Wow. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Especially because like, and Ryan had told me something like that too when he mentioned that. I really love you. I appreciate it because you give so much more real perspective, because from the outside looking in, they make it look like, oh, this is a bloody conflict, and they don't necessarily kind of show it like how it used to be, but like kind of just showing the changes in the geographics. But I did hear that there's a lot more, which now I can see is en route by the cartels. There's a lot more infrastructure and like businesses being built and manufacturing being done, and it's bringing a lot more business to the country, which is awesome.
a lot. And like a lot of people are moving here too post pandemic. I mean, these places are just blowing up, Mexico City, wherever else, because you feel like you're in the West Village in Manhattan, sitting in a neighborhood like Roma or Condesa in Mexico City, but you're spending like a quarter of the price across the board and like way less in rent. But it's an international city. It's nice. I mean, you got, it's one of the biggest cities in the world, so it's got
Mexico
everything.
City, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
It is. It's super wild, man. But I mean, So yeah, I mean, like the clientele that I didn't try to get into this profession as like a healer. I actually had a really big allergy to this idea of being a healer, just based on everybody who proclaimed to be such. And I was all like, well, I don't want to be that, you know, or any sort of new agey stuff. I mean, I was like, I just had a natural aversion to it.
Yeah.
Until it just like was in my face, and I used these modalities to heal myself. So things like self-awareness and meditation. I mean, just like really simple concepts like self-realization, a la Paramahansa Yogananda. You know, you read books like Autobiography of a Yogi or whatever, you read the Tao Te Ching, and like it starts to heal you from within, right? It's like a technology. Yeah. And then you couple that with the breath, and then you couple that with some plant medicines. And the thing about Mexico is it has a lot of indigenous plant medicines like psilocybin mushrooms, like that came via Maria Sabina in Oaxaca, Mexico. You have peyote, which like the indigenous people here that use that, they're called the huichol or the huayarica. Yeah, peyote is like a little cactus. It's little bitty spineless cactus, real squishy, really like lovely just presence. If you just look at it, it's like this kind of like greenish, bluish, like darker hue. It doesn't have any spines on it. You touch it, it's squishy. Like it's a cool presence, but I mean, it's got mescaline in it. So they've been using that for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the mushrooms obviously have psilocybin, and we're learning so much about just like mushroom mycelium underneath the structure. You know, you go into some of these mountains in the Sierra Madres, and it's never been touched. Like it's never been developed. The tree's never been cut down. And you just have like pine trees growing next to agave plants with thousands of different kinds of flowers with butterflies and hummingbirds. It's like, and then there a mushroom is growing. And then there you take the mushroom in the midst of that virgin forest, which already is magic being there. Mm-hmm. You're ingesting nature. You almost like blend into nature. You realize the unity of everything, like the oneness that you are with all. So Mexico just kind of has that like in its DNA.
I love that. That was really well said too. Ryan, of course, is Sagittarius, and I'm Gemini, and I love how Ryan invited you. Right, for people who are curious, what is your sun, moon, and rising?
Okay, so I just recently learned all this because, like I said, the allergy to sort of like new agey type things. But I didn't have my birth certificate or anything like that, or like my birth time, so I had to get my dad to go to the courthouse and get it. It took a couple weeks.
Yeah,
but I'm Scorpio rising with a Capricorn moon, and I have I'm a Scorpio Pluto too, and I'm a Scorpio Venus, I want to say.
Scorpio. So Scorpio sun and rising. Okay, Cap Moon Club. That's what's up. I love that word. Yeah. That's why you were saying your honor. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I really admire that you are in this position to apply your gifts. Like I've gone to a few ceremonies where I've done ayahuasca, and I did a sweat lodge in Cali. I forgot what it was called, where that was called, but it was like they fed us peyote while we were doing that. It was a very intense experience. And
oh wow.
You know, I've done a combo, and you know, you get that kind of idea of people who feel like it's a trend, right? Like this is just a spiritual thing to do. Like this is just kind of whatever. But what I gained a lot through that, really humbling experiences, as far as that helped me really transition into doing the real work, you know, and really understanding how to process and integrate what these things kind of tell and show you. And that's why, once again, I being in those spaces, integrating with people after those ceremonies, I really have a high respect for you actually being out there doing it, connecting with people. Shout out to Ryan once again, who I believe is also out in Mexico. So, you know, my next question for you is, especially for those viewing, what you did mention elements of it, right? But what is the healing you do? What is it that you offer? And like someone kind of in walking in the day of the life of you, what would they kind of see?
It's speeding up very quickly, and it's definitely moving into the realm of like, oh man, like limitlessness, like you talk about. Nice. And it's all very new to me. And at first it was a little disconcerting until I hear somebody like you saying like, you are limitless, try to prove yourself wrong. Like show the evidence to the contrary. And when that's the case, it's all like, damn, like this is kind of the case. And so day to day for me, I mean, I'll just give you like the last week, for example. I was in a retreat for ayahuasca, which was with about 20 different people. And I was sort of co-facilitating a ceremony there with a Shipibo maestro. So the Shipibo are like the indigenous group, one of the indigenous groups that serve ayahuasca.
I remember that being
proven.
I hate to interrupt you, but like
Sure.
that was mentioned before, where a certain strain of that was from the Shipibo people, and they made it a point to kind of like go into explain that. I'm glad you mentioned that. That was amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I hope your viewers don't mind, but I got this like this. I saw you just like smoke a little something. I don't mean to like call you out before we got onto camera, but so I was all like, I'm gonna smoke up my thing. So I might light up this pipe a little bit later, just for like a little bit of a. Oh, there you go. Okay, well,
Yeah,
hey.
that's what's up.
Mm-hmm.
Got the OG pipe. That's what's that. Yep.
So I don't know if it's like a shaman's pipe, but so this is what I'm smoking. Is called mapacho. It's like a wild jungle tobacco that grows in the Amazon.
Yeah,
and it connects all the plants. So like,
that's what they gave us during ceremony to just kind of smoke in between. That's awesome.
So yeah, so a day in the life, like I was doing that, and that was like 3 nights of ceremony. Before that, I work with individual clients, so just like one-on-one. People have a way to find me. It's kind of like all too easy to find me, and it's kind of hard to find me, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
So the people that arrive in my orbit are the people that need to be there. And it may even be like they've tried to connect with me like 4 or 5 times through various channels. And then when it hits, it's like, it's time. And then they're ready as well. So I definitely don't just like throw anybody off the deep end. I work with very high dose psilocybin and very high dose ayahuasca. So I'm definitely taking people into those like death realms. And as a Scorpio, like it's kind of a natural element for me anyway. But I do feel like my role is almost like a death doula or something like that, you know?
Oh yeah, that's so awesome. What year were you born?
I was born in 87.
Okay, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so basically, like, I might in a typical day lead a ceremony with a person, like a one-on-one, and that'll take like anywhere from 6 to 7 hours. And then I might transition into like ayahuasca that night, or I might go a week without doing any of this stuff. And I might just be working on like connecting with the people that reach out to me, because I like to think of what I do as psychedelics and self-realization. So anybody that comes to me, like, we're definitely studying some Taoism. We're definitely studying some like Eastern thought. We might be working through the Bhagavad Gita together. If they're from a Christian perspective, like that's fine. I can get down with that because it's all the same thing, you know, like it's saying the same stuff. So it's basically just getting people in the mindset to be okay with what is, just to sit in the midst and allow anything to be that happens and not have a preference one way or the other. The third Zen patriarch says, the path is easy for the person with no preferences. The path of light, the path of enlightenment is actually quite easy if you have no preferences. So it's like, that's fine. You can have preferences outside of your time with me, but for the 7 hours that we're going to be in a psychedelic, like, I don't care if you're sweaty or if you're hot or if something hurts or like if your emotions pick up, we're just going to be with it, because the ultimate truth is that you are safe, you are protected, you are guided, you are provided for, and you are sustained in this realm of the 6 or 7 hours. And ultimately, you're just lying down on like a comfy bed on a Sunday afternoon, and that's it. So like, just tell yourself that, and whatever is like processing and moving through you, allow it. And so, you know, I sort of just like oscillate between like spending a lot of solo solitary time doing my own practices, meditating, exercising my body, my own physical energies. And then when people do come into my orbit, availing myself to them and loving them to like my ultimate capacity. And that just continues to evolve, man. It just continues to evolve.
I love that. Especially now that you mentioned something that really struck a light bulb with me, where I think one of the most significant ceremonies I've done was with a Scorpio lady. She had like Bufo and, you know, other such. She provided a space for all these healings, and that whole notion of that death doula aspect, I didn't even realize, but like you guys are masters at this, and even down to like intuitively knowing like how to work with people and where people are at, and that really helps me respect that, regardless of sign. It really helps me respect that process. But yeah, man, that's what's up. I even appreciate how you mentioned that you weren't really looking for this. It just kind of, you saw what was in front of you, you know?
Dude, I I ran from it. I ran from it and I resisted it. And it just like until it just kept showing up in my face. And I would get hurt running from it, you know, but I was all like, I'm not gonna do this. I also had a big complex because like here I am, like, for your audience you can't see, I'm very white. Like I present very white, right? So like obviously coming off of the protests, I was living in New York City during
Ooh,
the
okay.
the
2020.
you know, like the post George Floyd stuff in 2020, and I was very much in those activist circles, and like I very quickly realized like sometimes my maleness, my whiteness, it can be intrusive, you know what I mean, to people just like being able to process. So I'd really had a lot of respect for that. And so when I kind of came into Mexico for my own personal healing, just to like commune with the mushrooms in the mountains during the rainy season, is kind of why I came down. I came down here, I bought a motorcycle. I was going through a divorce, and it was like my life was just shifting very quickly, like moving
That's
toward this
deep.
direction.
That's deep. Yeah.
I mean, it was big, right? And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna like, I just need to know how to stand on my own two emotional feet. But I would spend like 2 weeks at a time in silence. Like on my phone, it just said like, "Hey, I love you, but I'm in silence. Namaste." You know, and I'd like bow to people as they try to talk to me, and it was cool. And I was like communicating with the mushrooms and stuff. But then when the indigenous healers were like, "You have to, like, you have to bring this into the world as well. Like, this is also for you. This isn't just for us indigenous people." And I ended up going to like the family of Maria Sabina and sitting in a velada with them. And then that was like kind of like I shared my medicine with her great grandson Anselmo. He shared his medicine with me. And then that was kind of like my okay, now I can carry this forth and not feel like
Right.
racked
You were
with
put
guilt for
on.
this.
I love it. And
Yeah.
most people don't really go out their way to really earn that respect either, which is really admirable. It blows my mind knowing that while the North Node was transiting Taurus, your house of relationships, you went through a divorce, several consultations with people. I've noticed several people going through that too, marriages or divorces, but to kind of see you actually go through it for real is very symbolic. It's almost as if you're ready to embark on this new partnership with all sorts of people who align, and you let go of that old social, more, which I guess was New York and that kind of culture. But it's cool to see how that actually plays out. Ryan, what's up, bro? See, I saw you vibing earlier.
What's up, Ryan?
Yeah, no, I was ready to talk, but I think we waited a good amount of time because now I'm actually settled. So,
Okay.
well, what I really wanted to do was, Mike, if you can run through the list of topics again, we can sort of hit them one by one.
Yeah, sure, we could do that. So basically,
Awesome.
we're going to be talking about accessing your best self, healing mental, physical, and emotional problems. We're going to touch on shamanism and astrology, nutrition, biohacking, true leadership, entrepreneurship, societal evolution, and love and relationships.
So,
Boom.
the first thing is, I think we got to give everyone the sun, moon, and rising from all of our, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Rio actually did. We learned he was a Scorpio sun, rising and Cap moon. But what about you?
Scorpio, sun, and rising?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Wow, okay. And then you are a Gemini, Taurus rising, Cap moon?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm a Sagittarius sun, Sagittarius moon, Gemini rising. So me and Rio, we both have stelliums. Rio has got the Scorpio stellium, which means 3 or more planets. I guess he's got 5 in 5 in Scorpio, and I've got
Yeah.
5 in Sagittarius. So it's an interesting collaboration of hearts. And we've got Michael here in the Gemini spirit to split the duality and make some sense of it all.
Yeah, I appreciate you inviting Scorpio during the full moon in Scorpio. I think
And the eclipse.
Bro, I didn't even see it coming.
Right. This is very last minute late notice, which I appreciate because it came right on time, which has been a huge theme too. Like really just being willing to flow and accept what we're aligning with. What Ryan, were you born in 87 too?
No, for me, 1991.
Oh yes, 91. Here we go. Saturn Aquarius. So you finished your return. The reason why 87 really sticks out to me is 86 and 87 are the first to begin the process of breaking the matrix with Uranus and Neptune. That's something we all have, but like you and I have the Uranus Saturn. You and Sagittarius, and we know Andrew Tate did this with his breaking the matrix scheme, but like every single one of y'all with that, it's amazing to see you step into that right now and begin to like ascend that, and like it must be a huge burden too.
Oh man,
yeah, because like you see like the what other people may not even be able to see and what needs to be innovated. So I mean, that's
Pero Michael, you would be possibly surprised at the amount of transformative, how do I say it? The amount of optimism that you brought into the world. It's people like you that gave me the strength. So
nice.
Thank you.
I am truly honored. Most definitely. And it's amazing, how we can all kind of connect this way while being in different areas and really help each other. Which I really appreciate, because obviously a lot of what we're doing now is still very novel and new. Like nothing's new under the sun, but like I know we're gonna look at this years from now and like, wow, like we
that is true.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we were still fucking, damn it.
These are relics of a very interesting time. Yeah.
So we create these time capsules along the way. I love it. And Rio had mentioned, that relationship. I really love how he explained like how the cartel is really on their business, and I remember you had mentioned that too, as far as like helping make more habitable the place and being serious.
This is the thing that we have to understand is the Canadian government or the American government, they are bureaucracy infused with cartel. It's actually the same thing, and that's what we have to understand.
They're just more organized, right?
Pardon?
They're just more organized, right?
No, it's just they've been officialized.
There we go. Not organized, but like it's more corporate.
Yeah. So before I left Canada, I just got into law school. I've always had a deep interest in the general progress of what they call justice. But basically what I wanted to do was to get into law school and just tell all of the students that ayahuasca exists. So that was my sort of only reason. But anyways, I don't know if you got that. But anyways, the reality, because you're talking about the cartels, bro, the government of Canada is a cartel.
I feel like every government is a gang, to be honest, and the war is a huge gang war.
100%. So basically, you have to understand how
we lost Ryan.
He'll be back.
Well, hey,
how timely was that?
right, for real,
bro. Okay. Anyways, the difference. Okay, when it comes to cartels and governments, like, dude, the government of Canada is literally a cartel, like by definition.
They even have a mercenary squad of soldiers to carry out what they want. Ooh, we really lost him. He'll be back. But please go ahead.
Well, it's interesting, because so I'm like just tapping into my own astrology.
Yeah.
And I'm learning a lot just by like listening to people like you
Yeah.
But before we go, I gotta just talk about the next 2 solar eclipses that are going to be happening, and I gotta get your opinion on it.
Yeah, it's when
So
you
we
said
don't got to do it now, but
no, I would like to do it now and later, because when you said 87, that was the first thing that came to my mind, because I know that's North Node in Aries and Jupiter in Aries, and this Scorpio eclipse is happening now, and then the next major eclipse with Aries and Libra is going to activate. So I have chills because it's almost like the Taurus settled you in place, right? And now that you're like gaining your roots, the next eclipse, it's time to go and really like move forward with that mission.
it's crazy that you mentioned Taurus too, because like I'm learning what all these signs mean and everything else, and some people are just coming in my path that are helping me a lot. And it's funny because I've been trying to understand it. It just hasn't, like, the key hasn't been. I just haven't been able to unlock it, and now suddenly, like, I can. And
I love that. Yeah.
but it's because and people are coming in my path at the right time,
Right.
and like this very strong Taurus presence, this woman, this kind of like West Indies, like British woman who like taught in China, whatever. We were in an ayahuasca ceremony together, and afterwards, like she just like it was like she held me, you know what I mean? Like she was able to like hold this like strength around me, and it was like this Taurus energy, and I felt Taurus, you know? And it's like, as being a Scorpio, it's just interesting to like see the opposite come into full spectrum and like see its necessity for me as well. So anyway, that's a little aside.
That's awesome.
What I wanted to ask you though, specifically about the next 2 eclipses, and you can ponder on this while we hit up these other concepts.
Right.
But there's going to be an eclipse happening in October.
That's going to be huge.
Solar, right?
Yeah.
And there's going to be another eclipse happening in 2024 in April, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, check it. This is crazy. But I've been showing this to people and they're like, I haven't made sense of it yet. But here's the, if y'all can see this, here's where the eclipses come. So this is like 2023 and then 2024. That's the cross. Right here where it intersects. Right here. Like literally the epicenter is exactly where I was born and raised.
No way, of that eclipse. Wow.
That is exact. Like honestly, like the epicenter is like down to the exact latitude and longitude of like the hospital I was born in, basically.
Is that the
This is
NASA? Is that the 2024 one, or is that the
That's the 2020. That's both. So one line,
so
like
one's
the
the
yellow is
2023 and then one. Jesus Christ, that's fucking crazy. That like knowing that, but knowing that the October one is going to be like right on your Jupiter, and then the April one is going to be right on your nodes, is mind blowing. So it's like you have that exact nodal aspect, and then the eclipse are going through your birthplace. So it kind of gives context to how like you're the epicenter, literally, of, you know, I don't even want to say epicenter because I feel like that's an understatement, but like a lot of these things you're speaking on, I would have understood as a theory because I'm just reading it on paper, but you just brought it to life, and I really appreciate that. Like that is freaking amazing, and we're gonna have to follow up on you.
Man,
over next
okay, good. Yeah,
you gonna see him come back, y'all.
I don't know what it means. But I'm just like, this is something, right? And also, I've been asking people like, should I be there during this time? Like, I have an idea of like where I would want to be, like but it's just like a sacred sort of place. I mean, even that land right there. I mean, it's a really like, it's sort of like a magic is in the soil kind of land, because it's sort of like. It's always been a very multicultural, very like rich place, civilization wise. Right. So very interesting.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. And yeah, I'm just really excited about those eclipses, kind of like coming to that realization right now. With seeing how you're living it helped me understand what to look forward to, because like it's going to shift in July. So this summer is where that focus is going to shift towards action and like moving forward on this foundation that we're all being aligned with. And I love to see that with you, you know, you know what, that's even wilder, because Chiron of healing is in Aries, and now the destiny is going to go towards activating that. So it's like we're all stepping into these original healing modalities. And yeah, that's so amazing.
And you know what? It starts with self-healing. Like I tell everybody that works with me, and I don't know what to call them. Like they're not clients. It's just like the people that I cross paths with and I like get to love. I mean, incidentally, like they come to me to like learn, but it's like they're all my greatest teachers. Every single person that comes to me, it's like they're teaching me a lesson that I need to know at that exact moment. So it's like who's teaching who really, and it's just the unity that you talk about. Like it is the oneness. That's all there is to it. But I tell everybody after they're done, it's all like, you know, ultimately we heal ourselves so that we can turn around and help others heal. We strengthen ourselves so that we can help strengthen others. And the secret to living is giving. So as long as you're just giving of yourself and your time and your talent, like it's going to be returned back to you tenfold, 1,000-fold, infinity-fold, as you would probably say. And that's just the way it goes, man. And so like, as we all step into this role as healer, you know, sometimes people will be like, oh, okay, well, let me go out and heal. It's like, well, just heal yourself. And then like you will attract the people into your orbit that need your particular medicine, because you can't give away what you don't have. You can't give what you don't have.
Yep.
And the marker of knowing that you have it to begin with is that you can give it, right? So by giving, we know that we have. It's sort of the inverse of the old way of thinking.
We know that we have. That's so
by
beautiful.
Giving, we know we have. Yeah.
And giving from a full cup instead of an empty cup that wants someone else to fill it, which I love that, you know, reintroduction back to self, or introduction back to self. And that's one thing that I've been really learning to surrender and embrace, to alignment, and learning to align more with me instead of give away that focus and attention. And I think it's amazing to see we've all kind of like, you know, we're leveling up towards that. And yeah, man.
So
you
true.
Know, so as far as like accessing your best self, you know, like what do you feel, one, is the direction we're headed, you know, collectively, obviously. And that's what I love about this next generation of what we're, you know, especially with what you're doing, kind of pushing. I would like to think that a lot of the medicine, or the healing rather, that you're really sharing might go against a lot of more mainstream or regulated practices. So how does this like innovate, or maybe it's not, I'm not saying that it's illegal, right? But like, I mean, in a sense where I feel like you're helping people with things that conventionally most people might not even think are possible to do.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, it's interesting because the majority of the clients that I attract are people that work in the realm of recovery. Like they might have their own addiction center or their own recovery center in the United States.
Right.
Because these medicines have, especially like psilocybin, let's just stick to that, because ayahuasca is a little like, it's a little unwieldy for the medical community, but like psilocybin's not. Psilocybin's very studied. It's in phase 3 trials right now with the Food and Drug Administration.
Decriminalized some places too.
Decriminalized some places in Oregon. So I actually work really closely with a person who's like tip of the spear. She's a psychotherapist who lives in Oregon, who's really pushing that forth. And then I work with somebody else in Texas who's working directly with like the governor of Texas. And she's sat on like the board of the Jungian Society of Dallas for the last 15 years. And she has a practice and she's a psychiatrist. But these people are really looking to like transfer out of that. And it's not even like they're looking for it. I mean, all of these things happen to us or happen through us. They don't have to, it's not like I want this thing, I'm going to go out and get it. That's the old paradigm. Like, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in what I want. I'm really not. Like, I don't like if I start wanting stuff, I just try to get rid of the wants. I don't try to like go out and get what I want. Right.
It's like you're receptive to what you can give, and it aligns you with who can like partake of that, amongst other things. But that was a huge light bulb, you saying that was beautiful.
It's true, man. And the way that it came to me was I was like, I'm just like reading the tea leaves of the universe. Like I'm just seeing what exists, and then I'm just like stepping into what is. So and then it's just and then it's an easy thing. And if it's not there, then honestly, like the path of doing nothing is a very high path. The path of relaxing in the midst of whatever it is that you're going through is a very high path, because the truth is that we're ultimately always like provided for protected, guided, and sustained. Like, that's the truth. And when you start thinking that that's not true, then you need to work on yourself in order for the things to come into your life.
That's so true.
So anyway, the people that are coming into my life, fortunately, and it might be the way that my website's set up. It might be but it tends to attract professionals. It tends to attract like psychotherapists and psychiatrists, psychologists, doctors, addiction specialists, and life coaches that are pretty high up. And so my goal is to teach them to be the teachers, teach them to be the healers, because they have something that I don't. Like, yes, I've gotten to live this kind of like adventurous life, riding my motorcycle to these like desolate, sleepy little mountain towns and getting to know the local healers there and learning the language and stuff like that. But I'm not credentialed. And for a lot of people in the States, like, they're not going to give me a second glance.
Right.
But if I'm coming prepared with like, well, I have 5 people that work for me that are credentialed, then it kind of gives me a leg to stand on. And so I'm actually going to be going to the Psychedelic Sciences Conference in Denver in June. It's going to be the largest psychedelic gathering, that we know of in history. Of, like you said, nothing new under the sun. So who knows what was going on 15,000 years ago? But
right.
For our day and age, like, it is the biggest, and it's put on by Johns Hopkins University, Stanford. I mean, it's going to be like,
that's so awesome.
It's going to be all of those people, right? There's going to be government officials there. Like, there's going to be just like kind of psychonauts, and it's going to be everybody in between. So, very renowned people. So as far as the culture and the culture's catching up is what I would say. The culture's definitely catching up. And actually, I wouldn't even say catching up, because it's like that almost implies that like we're going forward. But really what we're doing is we're just shedding all of this bullshit conditioning that's been put on us. And we're just going back to our roots.
Yeah.
We're going back to nature. We're going back to like a very simple molecule, like substance that grows in the earth, We're
returning back to our natural state.
Absolutely. Yes. In order to advance, we have to do that.
Yes. And I love what you said before about not worrying about, things we shouldn't. The birds don't have to worry about what food they're going to eat the next day. Just,
oh yeah, dude.
All right,
Yeah. The bird. Yeah, it's like they neither toil nor spin. Like, the birds of the air consider the lilies of the field. I love that. Matthew 6, I think it is.
Right. Nice.
But it's like, yeah, exactly. It's like, and yet their father, like the Heavenly Father, takes care of them. Like, how much more will he take care of you, oh you of little faith? It's just such a like mic drop. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, the last year in Sedona, my really good friend Starry Ari had initiated us in Toltec shamanism.
Okay.
And
nice.
she gave us some tools, and we're on this path down. And that, with practices like that has always been, as it's meant to be, a struggle or a challenge to take practices like that and now make them real, practice them for real, right? And how would you advise people wanting to get into shamanism? How can they start? And for those who have just gotten started, what's the best way for them to kind of step into that healership role? Obviously perfecting your skills, but like, yeah, in going out there and connecting with other healers.
I would say, like, and excuse these fireworks going in the background. It's Mexico, so like they're always blowing shit up.
That's awesome.
But I would say it's always lead with reverence and respect. Okay, reverence and respect for the other person that's in the room. I don't care who it is, and if it's an indigenous healer, like, they're people too. You know what I'm saying? And it's not time to just treat them with reverence and respect like you would anybody.
Yeah.
Treat the medicine with reverence and respect too. If you're using a medicinal modality, if it's a sweat lodge as the medicine, or if it's just like an herbal tea, or if it is like an actual psychedelic or something like that that's very powerful, you need to treat that with reverence and respect too. And then most, equally as important, treat yourself with reverence and respect. So don't go to anybody or anything if it's a substance or if it's a person trying to get something. Like that's a very transactional model. I would say it's more important to treat it relationally. You know what I mean? Like if you're starting, so it's like, well, I paid the person and they need to give me this. Like I'm hurting and they need to fix me. It's like, no. That's not how this is. Everything is relational, including with the medicine. So like you introduce yourself. Hello, like this is what I'm looking to do. Maybe you can help me. Please be kind to me. Like I'll also be kind to you. Like, can I do anything? Can I help? That's how I would say approach it generally. And I mean, you might like read between the lines. That's how you should probably just approach everything with everybody all the time.
Right.
And it's no difference with like the kind of the various healers that you'll encounter in your path.
That was a huge breakthrough for me in doing these. When I had first started, like the whole concept of ceremony, like even doing ayahuasca, like I had thought ayahuasca was like mushrooms and ecstasy, like on steroids or something. So I was expecting a more recreational experience, and it really humbled me. It's like, wait, this is more like medicine. This is more like work. And I stopped approaching it like, okay, I'm going for this experience. And it's like, okay, wow, like this isn't something that I'm meant to do just once for an experience. It's like something that it's what you said, like developing that relationship. And it's definitely something I feel I ran from too, as far as like being offered to go out. I was invited to Peru to do that. And I was like, nah, I didn't want to face that or really like answer that call. But I know it was a couple of years ago, but I really appreciate how, you mentioned it always comes back around for you to really step into.
Yeah. It's true. And like if you are coming with any of your bullshit, like if you're coming with an ego, it's going to make you honest real quick, these medicines.
Yeah.
And it'll rock you. So I would say I will for sure. And so I would say like sort your own shit out for yourself, by yourself, in yourself before you go to the medicine to kind of do it. And then if you do that, then everything will sort of like fall into place and line up. But I mean, to be honest, like, I mean, my path, I'm having a conversation that's coherent right now, but there was like years of my life where I was practically catatonic. I was just so depressed and I was so addled with mental illness or like mental health disorders. And that was really hard, and it took me to the brink of death many times, either self-induced or otherwise. And the path is going to have you. Like my mom used to say, I grew up in Texas, right? So it's like a little bit more of that Southern flair, but she's like, God's going to have his way with you one way or the other. He's going to have his way with you. And it's like, it's kind of true, it's like, maybe you could say life, universe, what have you, but like, or your own internal nature, like you can't outdo your nature. Right. So, if you can step into that and regardless of whatever's happening, like, and just don't try to fight it. Don't try to resist it. Approach it with reverence and respect and do that with like within, so without, just with everything. It'll really start to kind of like take you down the river. And then it's just your job to always just stay centered and just relax. You know what I mean? In the face of whatever it is that's happening. Like your mind might be going a million miles a minute. You might be processing some deep trauma that happened when you were 5 years old from sexual abuse. So I'm not saying like your mind's going to relax. Don't try to relax your mind. Your mind needs to express energy, but you relax, and if you don't know the difference between your mind and you, then that's your first step. Like, cause you're not your mind and you're not your body. You're not your name. You're not your age. You're not anything. You are the thing that is eternal and divine. And it's something that can just watch whatever's happening in this human experience. And energies, they're going to release. And if it hurt going in, it's going to hurt coming out. But if you can relax in the midst of that, you're just going to hit those higher and higher and higher levels for sure.
Higher levels of surrender?
I mean, surrender doesn't have levels. You either surrender or you don't.
Amen to that. Okay. Higher levels of experience conscious. I love that. Or
I would, by the higher levels, I mean, like, let's just like, if you're thinking of it in terms of chakras, like, you're kind of like working on your root chakra, then you're working on your sacral. Like maybe you're going through like your ancestral wounding, which we all have. And then your work, I mean, this is really our lot in this generation, is like to release ourselves from our ancestral baggage that we're carrying, right? And our parents aren't going to do it for us. Our friends aren't going to do it for us. The shaman's not going to do it for us. Like I said, I grew up in Texas.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's this, so we sing a song. It's all like, you've got to cross that river of Jordan. You got to do it for yourself, because ain't nobody else can do it for you. You got to do it for yourself.
Yep.
And
Face
obviously we're all walking each other home, as Ram Dass says, like we are all helping one another get to that place. But the final act has to be done by you. You know what I mean? Frodo has to like walk to the lava of Mordor and like physically throw in the ring. Nobody can do it for him. Everyone's helping him get there, but like,
right.
That's your lot. You know what I mean? And so like when you go to that place deep within, in that silence, nobody's there like with you. That's where you also find the space and the capacity to relax in the midst of. And life almost begins to move through you. It's like, just work with life. Don't work against life. Work with life. Right.
And that was a huge thing to this day that, you know, I still work on. And that's like disassociating from the mind. And I mean, for a large part of my life, I used to just think that I was my thoughts, like I was my mind. And I'm learning to remember I have a mind. You know, I have a mind in the body. I have a mind in the body. And Ryan, please, if we kind of discussed that, you know, a bit of shamanism, if you don't mind speaking towards like healing your mental, physical, and emotional self.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're shining.
So I think it's very interesting. I think we hit like 1 hour. I don't know if I've said 2 or 3 words at this point. So that's pretty cool. No, it's a Scorpio full moon. We've got a Scorpio stellium in the house. And this is a time of immense transformation for people. So Mike, I want you to refresh my memory about the general question, but I also want you to run through the topics one more time in case anyone is watching live.
No, I got you. We talked about accessing your best self. We hit a little bit on shamanism, where healing mental, physical, and emotional problems is where we're at now. And then we have astrology, tying that into astrology, nutrition, biohacking, true leadership, entrepreneurship, societal evolution, which is really awesome, and love and relationships. And
amazing.
The first time I was introduced to biohacking was with the friend of mine who introduced me to these ceremonies. He's the one who introduced me to all of that work, and he's a biohacker. And I haven't necessarily heard too much else about that, so I'm excited that.
So, what was the first question? I think you mentioned something about shamanism. What was the first question?
Well, healing mental, emotional, and physical problems. How would you tie that into shamanism?
Well, as a society, we have been deeply deprived of literally of the traditions. So every culture has an indigenous set of traditions, and 9 times out of 10 that involved a plant medicine spirit, that involved probably a hallucinogenic, entheogenic sacrament, whether it's wine, mushrooms, or ayahuasca. This is the nature of our history. So the fact that this has been robbed from us, it's been scrutinized and what's the word? Shamed, yeah. The idea of a real sacrament, of a psychedelic substance, has been utterly and completely shamed, but it's our nature, right? So this is one of the biggest wounds in humanity right now. Yeah.
And that's what I love, that because, once again, by really just kind of going back to those roots, we naturally gain all that healing. I mean, through the process, especially. And I can imagine your experience there has shown you that, and from everything you've told me too, which is really inspirational to hear. Are you guys by the beaches?
Yeah.
I think we're close enough. Yeah.
What's that like?
Awesome.
So I could imagine. This is dope vibes and everything.
Yeah,
It's like
I've always been more of a river person. I grew up around like near the headwaters of a couple rivers. The place where I grew up, there's like 4 different rivers that are really significant, sacred, clear water, like, you know, can see like 20 feet down rivers. And I was never really an ocean person until very recently. And it must be the Piscean kind of like stuff that's shaken out. I don't know, but like the ocean's just really embraced me. So it's really awesome to live near the ocean.
It's so cleansing too. I didn't realize the effect until I drove to Cali one day, and like this weight I didn't know I even had. And I was like, wow, though, I didn't even know the ocean can just take that from you. And I wasn't even by, I was just driving by it. It was so mind blowing. I had a deeper respect.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I had a, like, I'm very embodied. Like I just feel a lot. I'm a very hypersensitive person, always have been. And so like, I know when something's just like, I just want to cry. Like I want to
feel
cry
it so deeply, right? It's the
yeah.
So
but as a masculine person, like on this earth, and it's like, it's harder for men to cry. Like, and I cry more than most women friends that I know. So like, I have no problem doing it. You know what I mean? And when it comes, I'm like, so
Capricorn moon too. That's deep.
I'm like, man, here it is. Like, thank God it's here. But I mean, when it's just kind of stuck, but the ocean has been the place where I can go. And just as soon as my feet hit the sand, if I'm feeling something, like it's coming out. And it's really great how the ocean can just hold all that weight. You know what I mean? Like I'll go out to where the waves are crashing on a cliff and I'll just like scream or I'll sing like really loud. And like, it's for nobody else, but the ocean just takes it. They can take anything. I'm so nothing compared to, you know what I mean? And that's a beautiful feeling.
And you have Pluto on your sun. So, you know, 265-year alignment, 257-year alignment, that is so rare. You represent some of the rarest people in existence, which are, you know, people who have those vessel moon, specifically sun and moon and rising Plutos, right? The Kundalini gods and goddesses. Pluto sons can understand the true nature of death, sex, rebirth. You perform psychic surgery on people.
Yes.
And once again, like, it's one thing to read that on paper, but like, what is that like? I mean, the depth of psychological precision to see through people like X-ray. I can only.
It's exactly right. I mean, I can be in people's minds, like, and when I tell people that, they're like, well, nobody can read minds. And it's all like, okay, like, I'm not going to convince you, but like, I'm not doing like black magic shit. Like that's not my path. That's not the healers that I learned from. Like my homeboys are like Lao Tzu and Jesus and like Mahatma Gandhi. So like
the masses,
right? Yeah. That's who, like, that's my tribe, right? And so like I'm not in here, like I'm not in your mind trying to like manipulate you to do something. Again, I don't have desires. So like if I had desires, this might be a problem. But like
that's so deep.
I'm not trying to fuck with any of that. But I can watch somebody and I can see where they're at and I can understand like how to get to them in order to sort of like let go of what needs to be let go of. And so it's very useful, I guess, at certain times, as it can be useful for that.
And Scorpio is seen as a sign of desire. It's Martian. Aries is Martian, Mars desire. And I feel like you're the personification of that evolved Scorpio through your process.
That's what it feels like.
You can feel the purity. It's really deep. Especially once again concerning that with the moon in Capricorn. Would you say it's like people's body language speaks to you, and it's like they snitch on themselves, like they don't know.
They're always just giving away like all their cards right out of the gate. It's like they're just feeding it to me. They're feeding me exactly like what they're trying to avoid, and it's all like, I see right through you. Like you just told me everything, you know.
That's what I've always felt uncomfortable before I really awakened more to release these things with water signs. Like fire signs will kind of say it in a blunt way, but like water signs, especially the Scorpio vibration, it's like you pick up on those things that for me too, I would be completely oblivious to. And it's like the ways I might be trying to hide those feelings, and I can't really hide from you guys. You know what I'm saying? I can't really mask that. And you bring us conscious awareness to that. And Pluto is also an awakener. So it's like you really do awaken people to this stuff psychologically and transform them, which is even more wild. And Ryan, you know, as the Sagittarius with that, how would you say your relationship with Rio like helps transcend it? The Scorpio Sag is really interesting.
Yeah, so it's a very important conversation because the Sagittarius and the Scorpio, that's the galactic center. So it's the sort of the convergence point of all energy ever. So Rio is the youngest of 5 brothers. I am the middle child of 3 brothers, but 2 of my brothers drowned. So I'm out here
That's
stuck out
deep.
alone. So it's
Right.
a big contrast out here, yeah? So first off, yeah, with the family element, that was the one thing. His name is Rio. I grew up on the Grand River in Canada. So
Rio and Ryan. Right. I love it.
yeah. So there's a lot of correlations there, but the main thing is Rio has a psychological awareness of humanity, of the human condition, like very few people that I've ever met. So we sort of meet on that level, where we see the human mind as something a little different than most people see it. Yeah.
Might I add, that is the God level he is talking about. The Scorpio ascension into Sagittarius, which is why this is very fascinating. I love that y'all are in a position to kind of spearhead, you know what I'm saying, this next generation awakening. And it is very important. It is very, very powerful.
100%. Yeah.
Yes. You know, that brings us to nutrition and biohacking. I know with the societal evolution that you spoke of, what really triggered.
I think I'll take the lead on this one. Yeah.
Please, yes, please. Yeah. You know, the eclipse we're gonna have, I think, is going to be a huge expansion point towards stepping into societal evolution. So I think that's gonna have a lot to do with biohacking and nutrition and healing. And
yeah. No, I just wanted to start with nutrition, and then we'll pass it over. We'll open it up for everything else. But when it comes to nutrition, we have to look into our past of just the general way that we would be existing, right? So we would be eating local food, right? So eating food locally is one of the most important things you can do. Even if you can just find local cucumbers, local tomatoes, this is going to change your life like so much. When we're importing things from 200, 300 miles away, you get really detached from the earth. So that is part of it. The other thing is a lot of anxiety and the mental health problems that we actually face. It's actually an imbalance within the stomach. So there's 2 ways to deal with the imbalance of the stomach. You either drink a bunch of sea salt or you eat a bunch of hot peppers. So those are my 2 solutions for you. If you, okay, so let me break it down this way. The bacteria in our stomach have evolved to actually inspire our minds to create negative emotions, because when we're depressed, anxious, or angry, we're more inclined to eat terrible food, right? So there's a few ways to deal with these invasive sort of overgrowths, but the number one is hot peppers and the other one is sea salt. So if you guys can find hot peppers or sea salt, literally they would prefer to how do I say it? To prescribe antipsychotic medication to you, but you're probably just like 2 jalapenos away from liberation.
I love that. I fucking love that.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Right. All you need is 2 jalapenos.
You're 2 jalapenos away from liberation.
Man, you can burn away. Yo, jalapenos, if you got a petri dish with some cancer cells, you put some jalapeno juice in there, the cancer fucking dies.
Away. On the front, you're only 2 jalapenos away. On the back, from liberation.
Hell yeah.
What can I say?
There we go. That's beautiful. And would you say, because it's really simple, like sea salt for sure, hot peppers, that's like the basis of where one can start to really start.
Well, let's put it this way. There's 700,000 plants on the earth. So if we break it down, like in terms of likelihood, maybe 2% of them are there for healing. What's 2% of 700,000? Okay, we got some plants. Yeah. Yeah. So
with the facts right there. And that's a lot of plants. Is that it?
That's
I mean,
a lot of...
yeah. So I mean,
it's as if these plants planned it.
Right. It's like it sets up this adventure too, like to discover the actual life on this world too, which is beautiful.
Seriously.
I love that. And I guess that opens up the stage for biohacking.
Biohacking. So yeah. Well, you go ahead, bro.
Very much.
Yeah. It's all you.
Much appreciated.
No, what would you say about biohacking, Mr. Peace Dealer?
I would say biohacking is like 40% nutritional. It's about the food that you're eating, the way that you're fueling yourself. And it's sort of the idea of understanding that our physiology is actually evolving. So when you actually capitalize on that, I'm not here to talk about artificial intelligence. I'm here to talk about
right. Natural intelligence. And
well, yeah. I don't know how long we've been surviving on this planet. Maybe 10,000, 20, maybe I don't know, a million years. I really don't know. They burned all the books anyways. So
right. And I mean, personally, like my only experience with biohacking was seeing my friend who was into it kind of use like sound healing, cocoon therapies, ketamine, combo, bufo, ayahuasca to kind of put people in these states and kind of, test blood samples and really work that way. From my perspective, it's all on a surface level. So like, I don't really know anything outside of
well, the idea is you're switching up the operating system through exactly what you're saying. Whether it's whatever it is, if you can approach the human organism with enough velocity, you can actually change the whole script, right? So,
I don't know anatomy. I don't really know complex anatomy or biology like that. So as far as biohacking, I can't really tell you like anything more than that surface. To me, I feel like I'm still just opening the introduction chapter book before
the idea of biohacking is basically understanding the general composition of the human body, understanding the periodic table, vitamins, minerals, what we actually need. And when you can give yourself 153% of what you actually need, then you can actually perceive the evolution of your organism. And I guess, in my opinion, that is biohacking. You can choose which way you grow,
Right. It's like putting the development not just more in your hands, but like Lareal was saying, like healing yourself with it instead of putting in the hands of other people who, unless you know and can work.
If you have a disease, then you have to put all the effort towards that. And biohacking is hand in hand with like literally curing diseases.
Not that you can't consult other people too, by the way, but just, being more conscious of it. Right. Yeah. Be more conscious of the process. Because I know my experience with health has been very passive. Like it's not necessarily something I've taken seriously. It's like, okay, I could just go to the doctor for that. But now at this age, it's like a reawakening towards really learning what is happening with my body. How does, and then also awakening to the fact that the body heals itself and learning how to work with that.
True, but at the same time, 7 times out of 10, like there's a saying from Ireland, it is within the shelter of each other that the people live. Sometimes you need a doctor. Sometimes you have to actually go through that experience. So you can't bash anything at the end of the day.
Right. No, that's true. That's true. Like everyone has the ability to fix their car, but if you go to a professional mechanic, he'll save you a lot of time, or she'll save you a lot of time, and share their expertise.
Yeah. No, a lot of spiritual people, they they like gravitate away from all of the modern miracles, bro. Like, come on, the modern miracles are.
So that's another important question, because it's very important. Like, especially like Rio had mentioned, like, you know, lacking that credential or official certification. What advice do you have for people who might be very distrusting of the medical system, or might be too full blown out towards one side? How can one really gain, obviously, knowledge and learning this stuff, but like, how can one gain that right balance between natural methods versus the modern miracles, which is very true and very,
yeah, man. It's that is an infinite conversation. The people on the side of, like, you know, terminal illness, or they have something that really needs to be addressed properly by medical professionals, like, you can't escape that. You cannot. So
years worth of research and you know, institutions. So I mean, you know, it's a reality that
yeah. So like in general, I would say, okay, look, I'm sure we've all received a prescription at one time or another.
Yeah.
And guess what? Your prescription, it was the first choice. It was at the top of the list. My philosophy is there should be 5 or 6 herbal remedies, natural remedies, dietary changes, whatever. And then the pharmaceutical should be like solution number 4, you know?
Right.
Just
and
to balance it out. And they don't do that because it's all based on insurance claims and whatever.
It's also a very huge marketable industry, which is a huge
exactly
incentive. Joshua Tree was where I did the Sweat Lodge, by the way. But yeah, like, I love that you said that, because that basically, no one is saying that you should just stop going to your doctor or taking advantage of this. But what I think is very important, you nailed, is that you should, and that's something I'm learning to be, because I should be conscious enough to know why the doctor is prescribing me this. And
no, bro, this is the problem. No, you missed the point. Your doctor, after 7,000 years of development, should have told you in the first place. That's the problem. It's not on you, bro. You should be able to trust your doctor. Your doctor should say, yo, we want to take care of you. We want to take care of you with the therapies of the earth first, and then we're going to give you all the pharmaceuticals next month. But they never say that.
Right, I feel. Okay.
You know? And that's their responsibility. You know?
The Hippocratic Oath. The Hippocratic Oath. Yeah.
Exactly, my friend.
Very
exactly.
True. Wow, that's very deep.
I know. Yeah. Well, if you could sell someone 7 billion products, I'm sure you would probably jump the opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially once again with these alternatives. My bad. Were you about to say anything? My bad, Rio. You look like you were going to say something.
Oh, no, I'm just listening. But I would say, like, I don't know much about biohacking, but I think I'm kind of getting the gist of this conversation.
Yeah.
In the sense of, I would say that the modern medical establishment is predicated upon adding something to alleviate a symptom. It's a symptom reduction establishment. So you come to them with an ailment, and then they fix the ailment. It's really good for things like, you know, you break your arm, they can mend a broken arm. That's fine. When it comes to things like spiritual maladies, mental health, we really are in the dark ages. Like, literally, I think that we're going to look back at something like an SSRI, and we're going to think that it's tantamount to a lobotomy, because it's totally theoretical, and it's not even that effective. I mean, it's like a 4% efficacy rate. It's ridiculous, and we don't even know how it works. Like, we don't know how it works. I mean, no doctor can tell you how an SSRI is. Based on a theory. Serotonin, okay, it's reduced in certain people. I only say this because I've been through the establishment on all sides. I ran through the whole rigmarole of going to psychiatrist after psychiatrist. I've been hospitalized. I've been suicidal. Like, I mean, I know it on all, and now most of my clients are these psychotherapists from the other side. So I kind of see it from all these different things.
Reminds me of a 401k too. Please go ahead.
So sorry. Before you continue, Michael, try and keep track of the live chat. I think there's a lot of questions. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I see you. Yeah, I've been sharing it up here too. No, yeah, great point. Great point.
So I think that, like, basically the way that our medical system is designed is to basically, like, to add something to a thing so that it can alleviate it. Whereas what the new paradigm is reduction. like reducing the things that are making you sick. If you if you take away the thing that's making you sick, then you won't be sick. Then the body will just heal itself. But if you keep on putting the thing into you that's making you sick and then take a pill on top of that to manage the symptoms, it's not really like it, like that doesn't really do anything. So it's like, it's almost like somebody who has like heartburn, right? And they're like, I need Pepto-Bismol because I have heartburn. Pepto-Bismol would be that part that interferes with it, right? Like that's the interjecting quality. That's modern medicine. But then if you ask that person, like, well, why do you have heartburn?
Right.
Where does that heartburn come from? It's like, well, I have heartburn because I don't have Pepto-Bismol. It's like, that's not why you have heartburn.
Right.
Like, that's what we think though. Well, I'm depressed because I don't have my meds.
Right.
And I need my meds.
Right.
But it's like, no, like that's an addition. Get to the root. Why do you have heartburn in the first place? And that's probably going to come from something that you're going to have to eliminate from your diet that maybe you're accustomed to. And when you start to do that, the body does just heal itself. I'll give you another example, just real fast. I don't know if this is on biohacking, but I think it is relevant. If you get a cut on your skin, everybody knows what that's like. And you look at that cut and you're all like, man, like, I'm just going to massage that cut and I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to give it a kiss, you know, all this stuff. You do that for 2 or 3 weeks, that cut it's not going to heal because you keep messing with it. Even though it's in love, even though you're doing all the right things, I'm praying into it, you know, I'm massaging it. If you just leave that cut the fuck alone, it's going to heal itself. And so, like, I would say the modern medical establishment is almost like it's too intrusive on places that doesn't need to be intrusive on. And if we can just get back to like kind of elimination of the things that are making us sick and go back to like what Ryan said in the beginning, eating local foods, eating clean, eating simply, fasting, you know, maybe for 2 or 3 days and like getting accustomed to that. I think that the body will kind of reach its maximal potential.
Right. And of course we're simplifying a lot. I mean, there's so much that goes into medicine that, like, you know, a lot of medical professionals I feel like, once again, one thing you touched on that's so important is a lot of the basis behind this modern science is purely theoretical, purely speculated on, purely just experimented. And I think another huge thing that's a huge problem is efficacy, because certain things work. And because they work, you don't feel the need to innovate it, to really look beyond just the symptom. You know what I mean? I mean, this works. We could just do this. It makes money, versus, you know, developing more preventative measures. And I guess as time progresses, we get to innovate these things. But it's important to highlight how we already have had the ability to do this for years, but we have industries in place that kind of, prevent that or make that more difficult.
Yeah, I would say like a good question to ask yourself is like, do you want to feel better or do you want to heal? Like, do you want the cure or do you want the palliative? And the answer is different for each person, because people that come to me, it's like, sometimes they're not ready to heal. Sometimes they just want to feel better, because healing, they're going to have to go through some of the harder things, right? And so I don't know, if you're going into your own chemistry, if you're going into your own biology, biohacking, it's probably going to be some of the same things. You know, it's almost like the Stoics would say the obstacle is the way. And if you have a problem that you're dealing with, you can sort of look to the outside world to help with that problem, to help you feel better. But the only way to really deal with that problem is to dive right into it and to like face it, you know, and then what happens when you shine that light of consciousness on that thing that's happening, as Carl Jung would say, like, we don't get enlightened by thinking of enlightened things. We get it by bringing the darkness into the light. And so when you bring that sense of consciousness into that part that's hurting, it hurts. Don't get me wrong, but it tends to heal itself, because that sort of confusion and that dis-ease cannot exist in the light of that consciousness. So it's a bit of a harder journey than just taking a pill, but once it's out and once you got it, then it's almost like a superpower.
No, for real. And, you know, definitely it's definitely learn to respect the process of that. The big thing was me trying to force everything to happen instantly, to be able to get all this instantly, to be able to do this. And I've just learned to literally let go of that desire. Like you said before, it's a process. Die to yourself daily, and to really get that through. And coming into the summer, the North Node shifting into Aries once again, this talk has really helped me put in perspective what all this has meant. 2020, end of 2019, North Node in Gemini changed our ideas of what direction to move in. We settled into that roots North Node Taurus. And now there's so much actions we're getting ready to move forward with. And this, I didn't realize, is the turning of the age of this true leadership and entrepreneurism. And Ryan, what's that going to look like?
Dang.
Yo, I would love to talk about it. So I wanted to touch on two concepts about like nutrition and survival, first of all. So look, let's pretend we're in the village. We've got some people, we got some children, we got some women, we got some men, we've got a little bit of everything, right? So a jaguar approaches the village. Guess what? I'm not going to be sleeping for the next 2 nights. We have to defend the village. Sometimes maybe you're not eating for the next 2 days. We live in a state of fear. The amount of flexibility that human beings have had to deal with over the years is amazing. So we have to remember, look, if you need to fast for a day, if you need to fast for 2 days, hey, maybe if you miss a night of sleep, it's okay. It's perfectly natural. But just make sure you have at least 2 feasts per month, because we also have to celebrate, yeah? So as long as the celebration is intact, we have to get out of this 9 to 5 mentality, my friends.
True that. Amen.
Yeah.
And take back true leadership of our lives and direct it the way it's supposed to go. I think
that's a big one. Yeah.
I think a lot of what really gets in the way that I've struggled with is waiting. Like waiting for the opportunity to take leadership, waiting for something to happen so that I can finally take the lead. When this happens, then I'll be able to do that. And what can you guys speak on towards creating that? Being led. I think the way you were mentioning it earlier, Rio, about how you didn't really just decide to become a healer, like this kind of unfolded for you. So like, yeah, what's that process like?
I would recommend everybody check out Rick Rubin, like whatever Rick Rubin's doing, y'all should just be like on it. He started Def Jam Records. He's a record producer. He's
okay.
Anybody from like Slayer to he started Run DMC. Like he was the first on like LL Cool J, and like if you watch the very beginning of Jay-Z's 99 Problems, Rick Rubin's he's like a fat Jewish dude with like a long beard, and he's all like, hey, how about this? How about we just start with this? And then that's like the beginning of the music video. Anyway, he just wrote a book called The Creative Act.
Ooh.
And what he says is that creativity is not something that you do. It's not a process of doing. It is a way of being, which is so true, right?
Yeah.
And so he has a podcast and stuff like that. But I feel like that sort of mindset, which is like the way of being, where you're tapping into the other dimension that is guiding us, like you're tapping into whatever you want to call it, like the creative realm or the muses. I like to say the unmanifest, right? Because like if you read the Tao Te Ching, it just talks about like form and formlessness. It talks about the manifest and the unmanifested. Well, we're living in a manifest world, right? Like this is material, but it came from somewhere. This design came from somewhere. It had to be thought of first and foremost, like in the realm of the void, of the darkness, of the place of which all things are birthed out of. And so if you can live your life in a way that is just in very much like tapping into that, a way of being, that is the creative life, and life will unfold for you. And there really is no waiting in that sense, because even waiting is just learning a lesson of stillness and breath. And you're never waiting for the next thing, because there is no next thing. There's only now and here, and that's all we ever have. And so it's just being in here. And then when something presents itself, you go there, and then you're in the here again. It's like there is no there.
Being in the here and now, which, it's a concept that you can understand, conceptually, but like once again, it's just this daily remembrance, right? I felt that at some points I'm just thinking about being present versus actually being present. And a huge block to that is thinking there's a wrong or right way to do it.
Oh yeah, of course not. I mean, there is no wrong or right outside of your mind. There just is. There either is or there isn't. That's all there is. Like, if it isn't, then it isn't. And if it is, it is. And that's the ultimate truth. And so this idea of right or wrong, those are all like kind of mental concepts. But what you even just answered your own question. I mean, like, I'm either thinking of being here now or like I'm being here now. And it's like there's thinking and then there's being. And being is just the kind of dissolving into the atmosphere itself. Like it's just like coming into your breath with consciousness or watching your mind go crazy. I'm thinking about being here. Like if you see that you're doing that, if you notice that you're doing that, you're completely present in that moment. Like you're not your mind, you're not your thoughts. You're the person watching your thoughts in that moment, or the being, the consciousness watching your thoughts, if that makes sense.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it does play into entrepreneurship though, because entrepreneurship is very much a creative act. Entrepreneurship is not like, it's not doing what has been done already. I mean, that can be a business owner, that could be a business or a way to make money. But if you are like kind of an entrepreneur, you're bringing something into this plane of existence for people that hasn't been done in that way before. And so you do have to have a lot of creative license and a lot of creative confidence to be able to step into that and to envision it first and foremost, and then manifest it into the physical realm. So if you can understand creativity as a way of being and not an act of doing, then entrepreneurship it's right there. Like you're doing it in that plane as well. It's not just like painting pretty pictures or writing beautiful songs. Like starting businesses is also a creative act.
That's awesome.
But I think it's also developing a relationship with failure. So I think you have to
Right. Oh, so true.
99% of the time, I think you have to learn to get accustomed to things not working out, money being lost, failure being failed, and all of that. I think that's if you're going to start your own business, you have to be willing to, you have to be strong enough to embrace the impact of 9 times out of 10, it's not going to go your way. And that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, definitely.
So real. And feeling like a fool the first few times you do something and not letting that
that's the big thing. We need to emphasize this because a lot of people are too scared to even start. So what we have to like sort of broadcast here is it's not easy. It doesn't even feel like success for a long time. 9 times out of 10, it feels like you wasted your time, you wasted your money. 9 times out of 10, you feel like you failed. And that is the nature of building a business, I would say. Yeah.
Feeling rejection. All
10 years in the game. I've been developing my design business. I guess Michael is 10 or 12 years in the game. And I guess Rio is also pretty far along. But it all comes down to the master has failed more times than the student has even thought of trying. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Failure is just something that you have to get very comfortable with. And if you want to practice failure, I mean, just go out and intentionally get rejected just so that you can see that it's not going to kill you. It's not a big deal.
Great technique. Yeah.
And to bring it back to what we just said, a lot of what always got in my way was me. And trying to think about it and trying to think, this is what I want to happen, and trying to make it happen versus just being present in the moment and just experiencing, which, is something that really broke me through. Something super simple right now where it's like, okay, instead of just thinking about what I want to do, like be drawn to just experience and then let things unfold from there. And I think a lot of expectations of, well, I want this experience, and if it's not going to be like that, I won't even try, and breaking through that really helps a lot. This healing that we're coming into of self, right? And also putting the power back into this more directive consensus healing. This is integrating over the next decade, I think, starting now more so with this full moon very deeply, as far as like love and relationships and connecting us now towards more people who are more aligned with, because we've aligned more with ourselves. So, I really love your insight about how you guys as conscious, beings are approaching this. Personally, for me, which brings back a lot of what you said about desire, I have learned through relationships, as far as, it's nothing for me to express my interest. I've been learning to be more open to express my desire and not inhibit myself and be transparent with people. But one thing that really broke me through is to really draw these boundaries, know what it is I value and want, and to stand on them, but more so in a sense where I don't think it's cool personally to go out and chase people. I would not even like, I feel like a man or a woman or a man can embody or relate with this, but I personally don't think it's cool to really go out, especially at my age, and try and like pick up chicks and like try and just
nine times out of 10, you just need to focus on yourself, associate with the people who are working within the same sphere as you. But also, sometimes the creator likes to pull a trick where it's like, Michael, you don't like chasing? We have assigned you for a chase.
No, it's true. It's so true. Like, I resist it, and now I'm in a situation where it's like, damn, I never thought I would. See, I'm so glad you said that. I'm learning to be indifferent too, and not.
You gotta trust your heart, bro.
Yeah. No, that's very true. That's very true. And I meant more so in the sense where it's more like of a sport, right? Versus where we're seeing societally. But I'm so glad you said that. That just was a huge light bulb moment and broken through. But it's like, as far as like culturally and societally, this hypersexualization of like
9 times out of 10, yeah, you're right. It's wasteful. Yeah.
And I feel like as a society, we're all getting a lot more conscious and communicative of these things. So how do you feel like we're headed towards, these changes in relationship constructs and people being more open about how they express themselves in the real world and online?
I think with the presence of the internet, we now have a very much like a collective library of knowledge. So I think under the best circumstances, the first month or two of a relationship, you can really, really get to know who you're dealing with, because there's so much to share, right? There's we now have so many outlets in terms of sharing who we are. And I think that's a good shortcut. I think that is a good shortcut. I think the average person, I feel like the average person is probably supposed to be with multiple partners at the same time.
That's said the Sagittarius.
Said the
Sagittarius.
As a devoted monogamous soul. And honestly, that's what I'm seeing, because there's just so much trauma in the world
too, with the relationship too, and
that is from the bottom of my heart. Yes, it is true, but not for me. Yeah, I'm struggling one at a time. Yeah,
and I actually feel the same way. Like, I'm personally a monogamist. I feel like it's a lot of responsibility
because you earned the title, my friend.
But hold on, I do also feel like it's, on average, like the somebody should actually explore what it is they do love and gain experience, like connecting with different people, and that makes it less about possessing someone and more about really embracing, the one. You know what I mean? And yeah. And I think stuff like that is less taboo now, right? We're coming out of that reinforced culture of kind of like emphasizing that and embracing, but also dealing with disassociation due to, I don't think it's limited to just online, but people kind of carrying personas and navigating who to trust, which, this makes it a lot, adds to the challenge.
Keep one more eye on the live chat. If there's any questions, we would love to answer them.
Yeah, as we close out, I think this was a wonderful talk. We'll have this available in my special topic session I do have both of your Instagram handles in the description, but how can people reach you if they want to get to know you more, or if they want to really inquire your
I
services?
think Instagram is the place to go. For me, it's ryan.sage, and I believe for Rio, it's at Rio Humano.
Perfect. I got that in the description box.
I think we'll tag it all up in the comments and everything. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm also at mexicopsychedelic.com.
Nice. mexicopsychedelic.com. I'm gonna put that in the description box.
Perfect.
Oh wait, how do you spell that?
PSY. Yeah.
Psychedelic?
Is it PSYCHADLICHEL? CHEL. There we go.
Psychedelic.
There we go. Sacred Psilocybin Mushroom Center. That's fucking awesome.
Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah, and that's gonna be undergoing a lot of changes in the coming months.
I'm gonna have to visit.
So, Michael, what do you feel needs to change in the next 2 weeks? If you could snap your fingers, what needs to change? What are people battling with?
So that's such a good question. Personally, I feel like when it comes to the shift we're going through, I mean, there's so much revolutionary energy and historical energy that is revisiting around this period of time. So many indigenous people in South America were colonized. You had French revolutions, Haitian revolutions, the American Revolution. And with all this, energy coming back, I think it's, you have this once again. And I'm not going to look at it as evil or good, right? But you do have this what I like to call systematic social expectation in the way we're conditioned to nerf ourselves. If I was going to use an analogy, it's like you have this limitless subconscious bank, and as a child, you're taught, oh, you're just a physical being. You have to play with this monopoly money, but you're born with the ability to draw from your own creative pool and essence and create this world where we share with each other. And now people are awakening to the fact that, oh, there's a whole world beyond this conditioning and system. But I think over the next 2 weeks, like, especially relative to this energy, people may not necessarily be aware that the shift towards this is just going to be sudden because all of the work happened within. And so it's just being able to adapt. And I feel like over the next 2 weeks, you just have to be very square on maintaining this natural state of just being present and allowing yourself to be one with your environment, which easier said than done, but yeah.
So you think it's going to be quite sudden then?
I think like things will happen gradually, but like certain things will kind of activate and shift quicker for people to adapt to. And if you weren't already aware of these things, you're not going to know how to understand it. I feel like someone like you who has been aware of these deeper facets, right? You'll already instantly know how to start to heal and aid people versus other people who they might have never heard, their higher self before. They may have never experienced some of these synchronicities. And then as top of the dollar collapsing and everything going on and all these messages telling you to be afraid of this end of the world when it's the most beautiful thing that could ever happen. So it's like, maintaining that state and reclaiming your power and not giving into what's being projected at you, but you being the projector.
Something that Rio was mentioning before. So, Michael, I know that I don't know when our first talk was, but like I literally found your channel like 10 years ago, bro. It's been a long time. So so what Rio was saying was the most deepest interest that he wanted to see was your knowledge of astrology. So how could you explain how astrology actually affects us? If you could like bring that into some sort of synopsis.
No, really great question. And that personally is the foundation of what I want to really begin to teach, because it's actually rubbish to kind of really speak of astrology as if it's not a science. And because you need a certification for law, you need to get a bar exam, you need to go have a test for medicine, you need to, for a lot of these professional scientific and medical fields and professional fields, have some kind of accreditation. Anyone can pick up and say they're an astrologer. This is not a recognized or regulated field. The years of research institutions that all these fields have, this is not really recognized. So you have a lot of stuff that was thrown away. You have scientists who have conducted experiments that are not accepted by peer-reviewed research journals. So for example, there was a Mars experiment where 2 French scientists wanted to replicate this experiment that astrologers made. They thought it was bullshit. The Mars experiment is taking a composite calculations, because I read charts, so it's easy for me to see this. But like when you read a lot of natal charts, they were able to isolate Mars in the chart, and they were able to correlate how, depending on the degree of the Mars or the nature of the Mars, all the most popular and successful athletes all have Mars that correlate. So these scientists replicated the experiment, and they proved it right, and they didn't know what to do with that. They never even published the study until years later, and you have a lot of suppression. So, when you have these misinformation articles saying that there's a 13th zodiac sign and that the signs have shifted through the precession of the equinox, and then you have a lot of people who use psychic arts as grounds to fraud millions of people, because you can give a cold reading to someone and people will be like, wow, that was so beautiful, but they just told you what you want to hear. That's met with so much skepticism, and people who can break apart those who don't really know. And Ryan, what's so very important about what you asked is that there are a lot of people who read astrology who cannot answer that question. And it wasn't until I learned the answer to that I feel I truly became an astrologer. Before I really understood that, I was just someone kind of like plugging and playing, well, this is in this sign, so this is what this is supposed to mean, versus understanding the science and now understanding, okay, this is all cyclical. So astrology is not planets that influence you from far away. Astrology is basically just the mathematical language of the transits in the sky and how they correlate down here. So basically, it's space meteorology. Right now, it's 8:59 p.m. PST. All astrology is saying the moon is currently, where is it? The moon is currently 20 degrees Scorpio. The sun is making an opposition to the moon. That's it. Like, we could say this means that. That's not astrology. That's now more a divinatory extension and art form. This is where we get subjective. But objectively, the sun will move along the ecliptic path. So to answer your question, what makes astrology actually real? You have the constellations, and then you have the zodiac belt. So Ptolemy and around the Chaldeans had innovated astrology and realized, oh, we made a mistake. There's the precession of the equinoxes. So we actually haven't been basing this on the zodiac. We've been basing it on the constellations, which was at the time aligned with the zodiac. The precession of the equinox due to the wobble has allowed, of course, that now movement from the constellations with the zodiac. So of course, 23 degrees delineation, based on the Vedic, you know what I'm saying, this full moon is actually in Aries, right? People will tell you it's in Aries, but the reason why that's not true is because it's a miscalculation. So basically, what makes the zodiac is not the constellations, but it's math. The sun travels across an
But what it really is, amigo, it's the seasons. It's the solstices and the equinoxes, which will never change.
I was just about to say that. And that's so key. It never changes, right?
It will never change.
The
day of the year where the light becomes darker, or sorry, the light becomes more than the night, that will always be Aries. Always.
Every day, right? And that's basically so.
That's astrology, yeah. When you understand that concept, that it's about how much light is hitting the earth, game over.
And that's what makes it a science, because the intersection, what Ryan said is literally the key. The intersection between the Earth's equator, the celestial equator of the Earth, and then the sun's ecliptic, the ecliptic, that creates the seasons. We have the Tropic of Cancer, the Tropic of Capricorn. And so what makes Aries Aries is not the sun in the constellation of Aries. It's that equinox point that Ryan was saying in the northern hemisphere. Equal day, equal night.
The day has become longer than the night. That is what Aries is. Aries has nothing to do with anything except for the fact that the day become longer than the night. And this will always happen as an equinoxial point.
Whether you believe it or not. Whether you believe in astrology or not, you don't believe in Spanish, you speak Spanish, right? And that's the most important thing Ryan was saying. That is the consistency. The sun will travel across that ecliptic path at 1 degree, and it'll create that 360-degree pattern divided by 4 seasons. And so the language between the planets that transit this invisible axis of the zodiac is what creates the synchronicity between what happens down here. So of course, when Mars entered Taurus at 0 degrees on Uranus January 6th, which brings this like revolt, we had those January 6th quote unquote riots. And I was able to predict that would happen. Anyone could kind of know that, because this is a science. I wasn't using some psychic ability. This is the language that now we down here get to communicate with each other and build on this science. And now, you know, engage. I study astropsychology, which now takes a psychological approach towards realistically understanding how to make sense of these synchronicities without giving in to pseudo astrology, like, oh, that's a Scorpio, so they're going to be in their emotions. Instead of giving that power away, the signs are just archetypes, and they represent states and emotions that we get to now be aware of these unconscious processes, so we don't call it fate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Mm.
Woo.
Mm.
Yeah. What a talk. That was amazing.
What a talk. So, Michael, I think you are more connected with the multitude of just the different diversity of people. Me and Rio, we've been sort of like laying low, I think, for the last few months. So what would you say about humanity? What does humanity need, according to you?
Personally, more than ever, humanity needs to reawaken to the limitless nature that they have. I think we've been duped. I think we've been completely scammed. I think we've been lied to every day of our lives that we need anything outside of ourselves. And I think
Michael, speaking of getting outside of myself, I'm just going to say it. I've never lived outside of Canada before. And also, I did not plan on even telling anyone any of these details. But 2 years ago, I just got into law school in Canada. I just got my first house. And when I saw what was happening with the pandemic in Canada, I literally moved to Mexico. And it was the best decision of my life. So all I can say is, if anyone's having any doubts, you just have to go for it. These are probably the best years of your life. And you probably just have to go for it. So I would encourage.
Like, you didn't know how, you didn't know like what was going to happen. You just really followed your heart there, right? Okay.
I had no vantage point. I was a blind, a leap of faith. That's how we say it. Yeah, a leap of faith.
And you didn't need to see like signs to be like, go to Mexico. You just really like trusted.
Well, do you want to know the truth? I was dreaming for 3 months. Every night they would say, "Go to Mexico." Like,
there you go.
It was like,
there you go. Okay,
so
you got the call.
I had some encouragement.
You got the call. There we go. I love that. I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
I love.
There was some encouragement. Yeah.
Right.
Celestial.
Right. Yeah. And that still takes a lot of courage to take that leap, because like most people need to tower.
No, I've never lived outside of Canada. But this is what we need to talk about. So Rio is a Scorpio stellium. I'm a Sagittarius stellium. This is the galactic center. So how can we talk about the evolution of society? Where are we going? Where do we think we're going? Honestly, Michael, you have such a good connection with humanity in terms of your awareness of diversity. What the hell is going on, my friend?
I think we're going back individually, internal and individually, because relative to the 30s up until now, it was a huge industrialization and socialization, a lot of social principles, social expectations that are all dying. We're literally in a space where people are returning back to who they truly are. And based on that reset, we're building a new society based on that. And I think it's going to require the surrender of our ego, the surrender of who we thought we were, like our nationality, our name, our race, and really coming into, in light of new evidence, who we've always been, And I'm really excited about that. I think that's going to really do a lot to end a lot of separation. Because if you think about it, a lot of our parents, they grew up in a world where you didn't live outside of your culture. Versus now, we're the first generation where people can kind of go to any other country, connect with any other culture, start marrying any other culture. And this is the generation that's going to kind of end a lot of, it's going to change a lot of bloodlines. It's going to end a lot of like traditional structure when you're now integrating a whole new culture. And, we'll have a lot of mixed babies coming into the next few centuries. But yeah, just as far as sharing culture, and finally becoming one. And I kind of see it as like the Tower of Babel. Like if you think about it, the Tower of Babel happened, well, however you want to make sense of that, because people tried to come together and then language was split. Well, now we're in a time where, for the first time ever, we don't have that language divide anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like people can kind of use apps to overcome that. So is there going to be another Tower of Babel moment? Like we'll see. Who knows? But it got me thinking,
Michael, do you believe there is a biomedical attack on humanity?
So personally, the last 3 years has kind of taught me that humanity has constantly been under biomedical attack, and not in necessarily, I don't think it's good, but I think it's out of fear. I think it's in the sense of, if you want,
but in terms of direct intention, do you feel in the last 3 years there was we got Scorpio full moon, where we have to lay it right down. Michael, do you believe there is a concerted biological attack on humanity?
Now more than ever. I feel like the last 3 years was a 30-year recap of population control that happens regularly. And this go around is perhaps the most important, because this enables certain people to control, monitor, and regulate a large amount of people. I truly do believe that there was a huge, that there still is, and it brought light to how this always has been.
So basically what you're saying is you do not believe it was about the scientific process. You do not believe it was about helping people. It was about either monetizing something or a straight up biological attack.
Yes. Yeah? The reason why I believe that is because doctors and scientists who risk their medical profession on the line to be like, look, this is what you're telling the people, but my experience with these patients and my knowledge says that this is not true. You censored those people.
For me, bro, this is what it came down for me. I've been deeply invested in the research of botany, different botanical molecules. Like I've been really interested in science for the last 5 or 6 years. The scientific process means you welcome the other side of the argument. You literally bring it in. So there's 2 opposing factors, and then you kind of work it out. In Canada at least, when the opposing argument came to the table, they literally shamed it.
Yes.
Pushed it away, lit it on fire.
Yes.
It was like, bro, if you know what the scientific method is, you welcome the other side of the argument, because
you're right? Especially if you're right, then the scientific method will prove that you're right. So why?
There we go.
And then on top of what you said, 3 years later, the opposing argument shows facts that you guys were right, and now they want amnesty.
Yeah, right? It strengthens your argument. So In Canada, what I witnessed was any opposing arguments were shamed, like viciously shamed. 70% of small businesses were shut down. We only had Costco, liquor stores, Amazon. And the opposing argument was literally shamed. So when I'm looking at that, I was like, basically, I think it was in capital letters. It was like FUCKYOU. It was like a big
huge,
and I just sort of like left.
Huge, demoralizing, yeah. And
Yeah.
and New York and Canada, like shout out to that as far as expanding it.
That's like a different country, man. New York and Toronto, that's like it's literally a different nation. The level of intensity in that area of the world, it's just like,
to me, that was an
That's where
entire
everything
beta test. Did it feel like that to you guys? As far as like this basically ran us through a test of, will you allow yourself to basically?
Well, that's what it was. It was a test of complacency. It was
And
to see,
compliance,
dude,
yeah.
they didn't care about the pandemic. 90% of it was saline solution. It was salt water, because if they gave you the real shot, you'd be blood clotted last week. What it was a test of complacency. And as we move forward,
He sees
look,
it, y'all.
this was a test of complacency. So what we learned is 80% of people will comply.
Yeah,
And
and that was terrifying. Not
we have
surprising.
to deal with that, because
But
the next
a lot more people woke up, though.
We'll see what happens, but
hold on.
we're also learning how to create different levels of documentation, because the government is actually, well, I don't even want to call it the government, but the
gang,
the crown or whatever. Like, there's different entities, the Crown, the Vatican, all of these entities, they're actually losing power, and we're actually learning to actually take the documentation into our own hands. So we're actually able to create like promissory notes, fuck you letters.
Yeah.
It's like with a capital F. So like, so there's ways to do it. You can buy yourself 30 years if you want to like kick the can down the road. Yeah.
To speak on what you said, which is also very important. Personally, the fact that so many people complied is a really good sign as to what more they can get away with, because now we know what's going to happen, or what may
Michael,
happen.
Because of people like me and you, they think they get away with something, but do you know how fucking terrible their dreams have been in the last few nights?
Ooh, speak on it.
Oh man, if you got a Cancer in the house, like Hillary Clinton's a Scorpio, these people are having nightmares. They can't even believe it. So I'm out here like slaying demons in my dreams, and it's like, yeah, you can get away with all of the political and bureaucratic BS that you want, but depending on your astrology, you're going to be having nightmares for like 7 weeks straight. And that's really what it comes down to. It's beyond the public sphere. It's about, you're a human being. And if you deceived humanity, you're going to pay for it. And we're currently at a point where they're paying for it hardcore.
Saturn,
Barack Obama, Leo, Joe Biden, Scorpio, Hillary Clinton, Scorpio. Like, it's just too much, man. It's too much.
So like another thing based on that, right? Which I really love that, you're bringing up. This is the vision that I have. This is what it feels like, right? It feels like every government, the United Nations, right? Maybe at some point in time, or even just conceptually, these people don't really have the authority to rule over people.
Never did. They're just thieves.
But it's literally like a television show where through these official press releases and playing the role of these, they can convince people, well, this is normal. Like, and all people have to do is just be like, this isn't really real though. Yeah. Like, we don't have.
And if someone robbed your whole family, you would probably comply with them. Like, generally, like, okay, I don't want to get my throat slit, so like, let's comply. There's There's a bag of chips down in the hallway, so like, let's like comply. And that's the nature of government. It's stolen land. It's a complete fucking, like, come on, like let's break it down.
But like, see, all that energy is coming around. Like, when all this happened, the energy that and this is important. The energy that we have now is what was when it was here last time. That's what was happening. So it's like we're coming back to the convergence and karma for that. Like, how do we return to that? How do we address all of that? I don't think we can.
Well, what we do is this is the thing. We probably like bring them all in and we like cook food for them and tell them it's okay that you fucked up. Like, that's what I'm down for. Like, I want to take care of them, but I think they're going to get pretty emotionally triggered. So I think it's going to be like a dirty, dirty battle.
The theme of revolution, yes, because we had the French Revolution, and all these revolutions are coming back. And that's why I feel like it's gonna just happen. I don't think people are gonna expect for it to happen. And like if you're present, then when this happens, you can adapt. You're not gonna get caught by the storm. But other than that, once again, this is such a beautiful, amazing talk. We are on the second hour, so I mean, yeah.
But before we end the call, Michael, tell the people where your grandparents came from. It's very important for people to hear.
True. My great grandfather on my mom's dad actually won a contest in England and was one of the blacksmiths that wielded the Buckingham Palace gates. And then my mom's dad's dad was a witch doctor. And actually, you know, my uncle.
Where was he from?
He was from Nigeria. He's from Nigeria. Yeah. And, you know, they according to my uncle, were visited by aliens and were given like And the only thing that's weird about that is the only thing that's weird about that, my uncle's an Aquarius. When I asked, the day before, I asked myself, like, my mom told me about my great grandfather. Like, I want to know more about him. I'm saying this in my head. And less than 24 hours later, my uncle walks up to me like, I'm the reincarnation of your great grandfather. Everything you know in this world can be explained by science, and aliens just dropped all this shit out of nowhere. I was like, okay, this is very interesting. Holy shit. But yeah, no, most definitely.
Amazing. I guess we're wrapping up the call. My grandmother was from the Ukraine. My grandfather was from the Russia.
So that's so ironic. Yeah,
and
that's so ironic.
The last name is Kalashnikov, which is the AK-47. So we're out here shooting demons, like left, right.
So Sagittarius.
Right? But honestly, man, where energy goes, where attention goes, energy flows, right? So if you make up your mind about something, if you push the envelope.
Oh my God, that's wild. He's a spirit's been trolling. Like, that was perfect. If you push the envelope, boo.
Holy damn, shit. That was funny. You push the envelope.
That was where the energy flowed.
We do that a lot in ceremony, man. That's how you end. That's how you end any sort of like dig it. You go.
Yeah.
Touch it.
I love it. I fucking love it. Hey, it was really amazing to have you with us, man.
Likewise, brother. Thank you so much for having me. That was a very, very cool call. Enlightening. Really pleasure to have gotten to know you as well, and your presence and your platform. I learned a lot just watching your videos.
Thank you. I appreciate that you tune in. I really appreciate that. I'm gonna shoot you a message afterwards. But you guys stay blessed as always. Thank you guys for staying tuned and fucking with us. All right. We'll definitely invite Rio and Ryan back on. So stay tuned for more. You guys stay blessed once again as always, and peace.